Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. Today we have a pretty spicy donation deck for you that is fundamentally a mana denial deck, but we're in Esper colours. So essentially we are trying to leverage RHYSTIC Study and Esper Sentinel to draw us a bunch of cards and just bury the opponent with superior number of resources. Now in order to do this, we are playing things like Stifle to hit our opponent's fetch lands, Wastelands to hit our opponent's non-basics, Sinkholes to hit any other sort of land that's going. So between these things, we should be able to restrict our opponents, so we're going to get a few cards off of things like RHYSTIC Study and the Esper Sentinel here and there. And we've got the things you would kind of expect. So we got our 4 Force of Wills, and we got our 4 Brainstorms. We only found room for 3 Ponders, which is an interesting number, but that's what we've got. So we've got these sorts of tools that are pretty good. We couldn't fit anything like Days in here because we're trying to play some higher mana cost stuff, so it didn't really fit very well. And you may have noticed this unusual card here, Void Rend. So this is for Esper mana. It's an uncounterable destroy target non-land permanent. So this is hopefully going to bail us out of a load of jams, and whatever our opponent does manage to get to stick, we should be able to deal with it using this. That's the plan at least. And we have some other pretty excellent cards in the form of Baleful Strix. This can go up the ground or the air quite nicely, giving us a death touch blocker, as well as cantripping. Can peck away for a little bit, pitches to Force of Will. Just a great card that's going to help bury our opponents under our card advantage. Now from there on, we've got a lot of singletons to talk through. So we have a one-off Hullbreacher. This is just a very potent card in the Legacy format. If your opponent's drawing extra cards, then you're going to be getting more resources. It's pretty good. Then we have Opposition Agent. So this is going to stop our opponent's fetch lands working in a different way, as well as really hurting certain decks that need to tutor to win the game. We have a Rayne Academy Chancellor. This is very much a case of a fun-off, but it's interesting to see how it goes. This is a 3-mana 1/1. Whenever you or a permanent you control becomes a target of spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. You may draw an additional card if this card is enchanted, which is not going to be, let's face it. But this is hopefully going to give a layer of protection to our RHYSTIC studies and things like this. And it's something that the donor really wanted in the deck. And it's been a hot minute since I've seen a Rayne, so let's give it a go. Then we have a Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. So this is one of our win conditions. We're a bit light on the win conditions, but this is certainly one of them. So the idea is we're going to be drawing a whole bunch of cards, right? So this can be a win condition that way, as well as just being a thing that draws us so many cards that we can just win the game. We just have superior resources, and whatever we have left should be enough to win. Then we have this one, which I hadn't seen before until I got the donation. This is an interesting one. So we've got a 4-mana 2/3 flyer. Whenever you draw a card, if you're the monarch, target opponent loses 2 life. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to you, you flip it. So most of the time you're actually going to be paying this for 3 mana to put it on the other side first, rather than it being a 4-mana play. The other side is a 2/3 Flying Menaced Haste creature, but it's only a creature on your turn. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, if there's no monarch, that player becomes the monarch. Whenever you become the monarch, convert Starscream. So this will turn back into the other side. So it's a way of introducing the monarch into the game in a bit of an odd fashion, but it's a pretty hard creature to block. And we need win conditions here and there, and if we can give our opponent the monarch, we can then take it back off them quite easily because we're going to be constricting what they're doing. So it's just going to be a case of trying to grind our opponent down. Now there is another card here as well, Queza, Augur of Agonies. This is a 4-mana 3/4. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So we are trying to draw a whole bunch of cards. So this should hopefully do that quite well. We have Wastelands to hit the Karakas, which can bounce it. So the idea of this is one of our main win conditions that we're going to be relying on. I would quite like to have more of these in this deck for what we're doing here, but I couldn't quite find the room. And Sheoldred kind of does a similar thing. It gains us life and it hurts our opponent when they draw a card. So we've got a whole bunch of interesting singletons, right, to win the game with. And hopefully they're going to be pretty good at doing it. Mana base wise, we do have the 4 Wastelands, but then we've got a bunch of jewels. We've got Tundras, Underground Seas, and we got ourselves a few basics here. So we've got 2 swamps, an island, and a plains. There is no Scrubland here because we need our turn 1 sources to make blue Now, the one thing we might get a bit caught on is trying to do the Sinkhole. I couldn't quite find any room for an Urborg in here. We have a Scrubland. We can just fetch around it. We have the 2 swamps, so we can get 2 basics to cast our Sinkhole if we need to. A whole bunch of fetches. For the most part, we're going to be doing something like Scrubland and Underground Sea as our early lands, but we'll play it by ear in terms of what we need to fetch at the time. Alright, that's the main deck covered. In a sideboard, we just have some really powerful cards for certain matchups, right? So we've got a couple of Null Rods and a couple of Energy Flux. 8 casters everywhere right now, and these cards are very good against them. They're also pretty decent against some of the Storm decks. We have another Void Rend if we do need to blow up some stuff. We've also got some cheaper removal. So Void Rend is kind of like our prismatic ending, where it's just 3 mana for any permanent we want to destroy. So it's kind of similar, instant speed, but we don't get the bonus of being able to kill stuff for 1 or 2 mana, which is why we have the Swords of Plowshares. If we need to blow up things early on, they're most likely going to be creatures, so we can bore these in if we need to get those dead. We've got a couple of Containment Priests to stop things like Reanimator, Sneak and Show, stuff like that. We got 3 Faerie Macabre to try and mess with our opponent's graveyard, and we have 1 Force of Negation just in case we need another tool for some combo decks. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We got a lot of interesting bits and pieces going in here. It'll be interesting to see how they come together. And I'm quite excited to play this one. I've worked on this a little bit for like a week or so, just sort of tweaking some numbers and things. And there was a lot of like fun-offs that we wanted to give a little bit of play to. So we've ended up with quite a weird spread. But they all kind of do similar things, right? So the Rayne basically protects all our creatures and gives us like the Leovold effect. So we're going to be getting cards off of it. Or our creatures are going to go untouched. Or where it's all permanents as well. So, and then we've got just a bunch of various things that can win us the game or disrupt our opponent. So even though they're all different, they kind of have similar functions, so it's not the end of the world. But we might find ourselves drawing one when we want the other. Alright, that's it for the deck tech. It's a pretty fun one. I'm hoping to get some people reading our cards before they get killed by them, ideally. Alright, before we jump into this, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. These are things that cost you nothing and really help me out. I'm trying to get up to 2,000 subscribers, so anything you can do to help me really helps me out. And why not check out the Patreon link below or contact me via the Discord for your own donation deck to be featured on the channel. Alright, let's play some Legacy. Okay, we can keep this one. We can lead off on the Esper Sentinel and then drop a Sinkhole. We'll keep this. Our opponent is on the play, which might prove a little bit awkward for us because they're going to have... Alright, Thoughtseize is what's coming our way. They're going to see a whole bunch of weird stuff over here. Let's see what they go for. So this land means our opponent is on either a Saga Storm deck or Mono Black, but they could also be on like a bug deck and just happen to have drawn their swamp to lead out on. So we can't draw any conclusions just yet. We drew the thing they discarded, so I guess we'll enjoy that. So we need to get a black source that also casts a white spell, so that leaves us getting the Scrubland. We drew an Esper Sentinel, so here we are. There's a Saga. This is a very good Sinkhole target. I imagine they have a bit of disruption here. Yeah, there it is. They had to have something like this, otherwise you're not going to play the Urza Saga out into the obvious Sinkhole, which is probably going to be the thing they take here. Alright, a Force of Will, not a bad one to have. We have jammed ourselves off of blue now, which is a bit of an issue, because we were trying to play into the Sinkhole. But we'll see how we go here. Maybe we're wrong trying to play into the Sinkhole. We should have just gone in for the Ponder. Alright, they're going to be Thoughtseize us here. Nurturing Peatland is interesting. I am feeling more of a Saga Storm vibe from our opponent, but it could be a whole host of different decks. Alright, we're not in a Saga Storm. Understood. Crack this. You need a blue source. I think this means we're getting Underground Sea. Now, are we going to cast a Ponder, or are we just going to jam this RHYSTIC Study? I think I'm going to play this Study here, and just keep the full-on tax on their mana going. We could get a little bit punished if they have a Haywire Might coming up. That would certainly jam us up a bunch, but it forces them... Alright, they're just getting a Mox Diamond. So they're sort of like green-black Depsy feel to them. A Grief. So we get to draw the card, but then they get to grief us. Alright. We've got good stuff that they can't knock us off of here. So both the Brainstorm and the Ponder, either of those is going to be a fine play next turn. Probably going to attack with a 1-2. Yeah, that's fine. Not really doing a huge amount of the taxing element just yet. So I think we will try this Ponder out first. A Void Rend is probably something we're going to want access to here. So I think we will take the Void Rend. And we need a blue source. So I think this is probably going to get us a basic island. How concerned are we about this Elvish Reclaimer and what it can find? I guess we're not that worried about the grief either just yet. But like we can take a hit from it and sort of rest on our laurels a little bit. We could get 1 damage in if we blow it up. But I don't think that's really worth it. I think I'm just going to see if we get a good target for our instant speed removal here. Alright, they're not attacking with the Reclaimer. That's interesting. Are we supposed to preserve our life total here? Or are we supposed to kill this Reclaimer that's about to be a 3-4 anyway? I think we'll take the 3 and see if we get any more information with what our opponent does here. I think probably the better play we could have done was maybe just hammer the Reclaimer in our turn before it untaps. But we'll see what our opponent wants to do with their mana sources here. RHYSTIC Study into Dark Confidence. Alright, we're rewarded for keeping the Void Rend. They're going to pay the 1 here. They are. Sure. Just smash this now. Say no to extra cards for our opponent. Quite like another blue source here. We did not get another blue source. We might be able to get them with a Reclaimer activation. Or do we want to just play this out now preemptively? Those are the 2 options we have. Either try and snag the Reclaimer activation, which I think is what we're going to do. We need to try and deny our opponent some mana here so we can get more cards. We can afford to take 3 here. Sure, they left the Reclaimer back. Oh, they're not doing anything. Alright. If our opponent's got a land they want to find, now's the time to get it. I think they'll get something anyway, just so they can pump that guy. Perhaps our play was too greedy. What is this going to find them? So if we'd have played this in our turn, we could have just denied this activation altogether. Thespin stage. Yeah, so we're on some sort of green-black Depsy type thing. Alright, so we're going to get a whole bunch of cards here. Yes, I would like to draw a card. A Force of Will. Draw another card. And we will hit this crop rotation. Alright, we got the mana denial we wanted. Alright, that worked out for us. Alright, let's start off with a Ponder. Starscream. Or we could play the Jace. Menace Haste. I think we do just want the creature here. And we didn't come here to not play Starscream, right? We can follow up with a Jace next turn. So let's see if there's more to meet the eye. It's a weird card that gives your opponent the Monarch. But our opponent's now on 3 life. I don't think this card is necessarily good enough for Legacy. Well, I think it quite clearly isn't. But it's a cool one. And it might be enough to win us the game just by being hasty here. So they're going to bash us for 6. That would leave them dead. So I don't think they're going to do that. Oh, they are. Right, they're going to put us to 6 and give themselves 2 blockers. Are we going to draw a card off the RHYSTIC Study? No. So we have our opponent dead next turn. Because we become the Monarch, then we draw additional cards. Because we've got the Jace coming in. Let's go attacks. Right, so what happens is we put them to 1, and then we draw a card for the Monarch at end of turn, and then Starscream triggers, and we do the target opponent loses 2 life on it. So we got to win with the old Starscream. So our opponent's on a pretty fair deck, I would describe it as. So we're going to be wanting like this sort of stuff. The one thing we do have to watch out for is Marit Lage. That's certainly going to be an awkward one. Hullbreacher, probably not going to do anything here though. Sinkhole should be very good. Baleful Strix can certainly buy us time. Stifle is going to be useful. Opposition Agent is going to be great. How useful are the Force of Will going to be? They can stop stuff going on, but I don't think this is a match where we really want these. I think we just want the removal. Just 1-for-1 stuff is going to be better for us. So I think we're going to try it without the Force of Wills here. And jam. We won our first game though, so I'll take it. We have an answer to Marit Lage. We have a Brainstorm to fix our hand if we need to. We have Sinkhole. We can keep these things. Opponent's mulligan to 5. If we want the option for Sinkhole, we need to lead out on a fetch land so that we can play it on turn 2. A Verdant Catacomb, sure. A Stifle. Very rude. Our opponent's going to have a miserable time here. I don't think I want to go shields down on the Stifle, so I'm just going to play Underground Sea and pass. Yavimaya, okay. A Grief. That's certainly an interesting one. I think we'll stifle the Grief trigger here. We have this coming in. Okay. We already have the answer for it in the Source to Plowshares. Sure. So our opponent's losing all of their stuff here, and then we're going to remove all of their permanents. We'll do it in their end steps. I think we want to Scrubland again. Let's say no to this. Go to our turn. Alright, they're just scooping up. We're about to Sinkhole them, but we got the match there. The Mana Denial plan came in pretty clutch there. Now our opponent did mulligan to 5 to make it easier for us. But pretty happy. The only thing that I could have done differently there was if I could have brainstormed before stifling, but just holding up the Sword to Plowshares so we could do that into the Sinkhole seemed like the solid play, and it worked for us. So we're 1-0 already. Pretty happy about that. Let's go to the second round. Alright, our opening hand's alright. Not a problem with this one. We've got some good spells. We'll keep. So Arkham plays all sorts of stuff, so it's hard to know what's going to work here. We don't get to do the Sinkhole just yet, though. There's our Tundra. Let's see if we're going to be stifling this or not. Maybe. There's a Brainstorm activation? Sure. If they try and shuffle the Brainstorm, then I will definitely stifle here. Let's see if we can get him with a Stifle. We don't see Stifle off of a Tundra very often. We're getting a Force of Will. Pitching an Omniscience. Alright, so we're blue-green Omnitel. Understood. Preordained, sure. A Hullbreacher. It's not something we can cast now. So we can deploy the Baleful Strix if we want to. Or we can just Wasteland our opponent to keep them off of some manas. But if we Wasteland here, what are we doing with our next turn? Is a question. I left 2 on top. Alright, we'll go for the Wasteland here. So we're representing something like a Spell Pierce potentially. Ancient Tomb, right. So if they go into the Show and Tell here, we will put in our Karakas. We'll bounce this now. So if they want another 7 cards, they've got to choose. No. So they got many, many cards. So our Sinkhole plan probably not going to be great here. Get rid of a bunch of various things. We could try a Baleful Strix to try and draw into something like a Force of Will. Or we could just jam this Hullbreacher when we get the time. I think that's better for us. Eureka. I guess we have an Omniscience, which is a bit on the awkward side. So we can't draw any additional cards with the Grizzlebrand. But they probably have an Emrakul in hand, which is going to get us. So if we bounce this, we can still... They're not. The thing is here, they're not going to draw a card. Oh, we got it. I was expecting them to try and force us into bouncing this instead of holding up for the Emrakul. Now, obviously, Emrakul Omniscience doesn't really help us there. But yeah, we got some stuff done there. Not too shabby. So, our opponent is trying to do some combo-y goodness against us. You know, Eureka and stuff. So we're going to want these Containment Priests. We're going to want this Force of Negation. Is Void Rend something we want here? It's an uncounterable way to destroy an Omniscience. Is that good enough? I'm skeptical, but we'll see. So the Mana Denial plan is not nothing here. Opposition Agent is only going to hit their fetches. That's not very exciting to me. They're not really going to be targeting our stuff, so Rayne can go. Jace is going to be quite slow here. Sheoldred is very good here against Grizzlebrands. So Show and Tell and a Grizzlebrand. What about this one? I don't think that's where I want to be. Sorry, Starscream. Now it's a case of, do we want this Void Rend or not? Do I want a way to be able to blow up some of the scary things? I have to imagine they have Vesuvian Drifter in their deck as well, so I think we do want the Void Rend. And I think the Void Rend is slightly better than the Plow. So now, what are we trimming? I don't think this is going to be necessarily a game about Jace, is it? I think we're going to have to just keep our curve low as possible. Well, is Jace better than this guy? Uncertain. This does at least end the game by attacking, so I think we probably want to keep that. Maybe if we need to get the last few points of damage in, it can be useful there. So the Sinkhole is very much burning a hole in our pocket. We don't have any way of interacting with our opponent. We got a Wasteland, but our opponent could go on turn 1 and this doesn't do anything. I think we need to mulligan, find... I was going to say find some Force of Wills, but instead we found this blue hand with no blue spells, with no blue lands. Alright, this has got one of the things we wanted. So 2 cards have got to go. I think it's the RHYSTIC Study. And probably the Void Rend will keep the Sheoldred because this can get put into play off of Show and Tell. And shuts down a decent chunk of things. But we have a sideboard card, and we have a card that is genuinely pretty good in this sort of matchup. In terms of threats. Carpet of Flowers. Okay. I think we are incentivized to play the Scrubland here. Or we can play the Polluted Delta, which is even better, because we can represent a blue spell without giving them mana off of their carpet. Kind of hoping they don't go for it this turn. I'd like to be able to have the Containment Priest coming along. A Ponder. That's fine. So they're probably going to have things like Veil of Summer and Spell Pierce and stuff to protect, whereas Containment Priest just ignores those as protection spells. Right, so we'll play this Scrubland and pass. Carpet, generating no mana. Love to see it. There's a Misty Rainforest. And a Ponder. Sure. Crack this. Then we go and get ourselves Underground Sea here. And we're going to shut this guy into play, I think. This can beat down. We start off on the Brainstorm. We can put back the Tundra. Put back one of the Strixes. That's Marsh Flats. Crack this for a blue source. So we'll go and get that Tundra we just put back. I think our opponent's going to be messing with our mana base here. I think we will cast Ponder. Wastelands, not really helping. I think this is any order and shuffle. Alright, we drew a Wasteland anyway. Splash for 2. Let's make a little Sentinel. They got loads of mana because of the carpet here. Alright, so they get to draw with the Veil. They're just cycling it. So like I said, they have the Veil to protect, but the Veil doesn't actually protect versus the Containment Priest. This might be a thing that they'll struggle to remove from play. Next turn we can jam Sheoldred, and that's going to really quicken our clock. It's going to make all their cantrips really bad as well, so they don't have it. Alright, are we going to get paid, or are we going to restrict their mana? We're going to restrict their mana. They're going to use their carpet mana to pay for this. Makes sense considering how much mana the carpet is giving them. Next turn we can jam this Sheoldred, and we're all good. Carpet seems very good against what we're doing, as a general rule. We're going to get Eureki'd here. Feels like we're getting Eureki'd. Nope, just a Preordain. I imagine they're trying to build up for the Show and Tell Omniscience plan, rather than just putting loads of stuff in. Okay, nothing there. Interesting. Alright, this is a great draw. Black, black, white, colourless. Alright. I don't think there's anything that can jump out here that they're going to be playing, at least. Endurance is a thing they might have. Seems very unlikely, but it's certainly possible. But we have Force of Will held up. We've got their Eureka and Show and Tells covered here. And we have a protection spell. Like I wouldn't say we've got it sewn up. Our opponent's got a whole grip full of cards and a whole bunch of mana. So this can definitely go wrong for us. They've used up 2 Veil of Summers here. A Eureka. Are they going to pay for our Sentinel trigger? They are. They've got 4 cards in hand. Let's try and stop this Eureka. They do have a 3rd Veil of Summer. Sure. This will burn them for 2. Our counter spell doesn't work. Eureka doesn't do anything with the Containment Priest here. Oh, wait, what? Oh, yeah, sorry. It lets them put in the Omniscience, doesn't it? Attracts her. Sure. This isn't card draw, which is a bit annoying. So they can't put in creatures with the Eureka, but they can put in the Omniscience, as you've seen. Oh, let's pop out the 10 cards. There is an Emrakul in there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. But they're going to attack for 15 plus 7. Yeah, that's dead, isn't it? Oh, a bit awkward. But we're getting there. Do I want to change anything here? I don't think so. Let me just run it back. The power of the carpet is what really helped them win that game, because that basically meant that none of our taxing worked with the Sentinel. They just got to pay for everything. So we could have had like a couple of extra cards or slowed our opponent down a few more turns. And they didn't really have a few more turns then. So. Alright, we're on the play. Brainstorms cover a whole multitude of sins. We're relying on this Brainstorm quite a lot though. But I think that's okay. think we're supposed to lead out on the Marsh Flats just to dodge the carpet. The idea is we're going to use this land and this land so we can get a Brainstorm with a shuffle. If we have to do an emergency Brainstorm, then so be it. There is a forest. Alright. A carpet, sure. A RHYSTIC Study. So now this turn we can cast this Brainstorm. These are not the cards that I want to see. Yikes. I guess we don't need a second RHYSTIC Study. I can put back one of the lands. We're not going to crack our fetch until later because we want to give our opponent more Carpet Flowers mana. And we're getting a black source. Probably an Underground Sea here. It gives us the option to cast Sinkhole if we need to. But this carpet is absolutely backbreaking for us. Another carpet, okay. So they get mana off this. They can cast Eureka now if they want to. It's going to be pretty good against us. Alright. Just the Preordain. And another Preordain. They did one top, one bottom. I don't know if that means they preordained into Preordain or not. One top, one bottom again. Okay. So we'll crack this in our upkeep so we don't draw those cards underneath. Not great for us. An Esper Sentinel. This is interesting. So we can jam the Esper Sentinel here and then leave our mana up. Or we could play this Baleful Strix and try and get a little bit deeper into our deck. I think we're supposed to dig deeper here. The other option is to hold up the Void Rend, but that doesn't actually get us anywhere, which is kind of the problem. We're very much shields down here. Obviously our opponent doesn't know that. But they can certainly pay for the Esper Sentinel trigger with all their carpets. Yeah, I think we found the card that is very good against our deck, and it is Carpet Flowers. Right, they can hardcast Force of Will as well here. Yeah, so they're never ever going to fail to pay for these with the amount of mana they got kicking around. And if they ever decide to not pay, it means that we are dead because they just have it all. And they don't care about us drawing a card. How dead are we? A show and tell. Not a big fan of this one. What are we putting in? We can put in the Baleful Strix just to draw a card, or we could just put in our most expensive card. Probably just put the most expensive card in, isn't it? Alright, an Atraxa. See what they get here. Alright. 2 Ancient Tombs, we can cross one of those off. There's 2 Veil of Summers, we can cross one of those off. The only instant here is the Veil of Summer. The only enchantment here is this. Alright, we'll see what they get. Got a few choices here. This isn't a particularly strong selection of cards, to be honest. Like, they do have Show and Tell Omniscience coming, I suppose. But they don't have anything to do. Okay, so they chose Tropical Island. Veil of Summer. Eureka and Omniscience. Okay. Right, a Ponder from hand. So we can remove this Atraxa relatively easily. That's not going to be an issue for us. But are we supposed to save this for the Omniscience? This will counter our Void Rend on the Omniscience they put into play, so that's pretty bad for us. They shuffled their library off the Ponder though, so that's something. Alright, let's get rid of that one. So I think we are just going to get rid of this. And we can't get rid of the Atraxa because of the... Yeah, this is a real jam up, isn't it? Veil of Summer being heads up is pretty annoying. Single point damage not really helping us the most there. Let's go for black and blue. Play Baleful Strix. Let's get this card. We drain life for 1. Crack this. Get ourselves a Tundra. Cast this. Yeah, whilst they have Veil of Summer, it's pointless us holding up the Void Rend. It's pretty pointless us holding up the Veil of Summer as well. Like, the other option there is to Void Rend the Atraxa and then Force of Will the Veil of Summer. Maybe that's slightly better than what we're doing, but they're getting pretty close to just hard-casted Emeralds here, which isn't going to be great for us. So we can do this and get the Veil of Summer out of our opponent's hand. Is it worth us pitching 2 cards to get Veil of Summer out of our opponent's hand? Not particularly sure on that one. If they do Omniscience Emerald, we're going to want to have the Baleful Strix to block the Emerald. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe we want the RHYSTIC Study as a permanent. So do you want to get rid of these 2 cards just to get rid of our opponent's Veil of Summer? Does that make a difference here? Tough choices. We will have to work through this Veil of Summer at some point. But what happens if we do this? I think we're supposed to... So we could do this now and then have the Void Rend up for next turn. Potentially. Or we could do this to get rid of the Veil of Summer and then drop the RHYSTIC Study with the Eureka. So that we at least have a permanent. So we have more things to sacrifice. We might be able to draw some more cards. I think that's slightly better. So they're going to Veil of Summer this. Yep, there it is. Awkward, but it is what it is. We got an Emrakul here. They do have an Emrakul. We're not even going to get a draw a bonus card off of it. Okay. Now we're not strictly speaking dead. We have this extra permanent to discard. Yeah, they attack with this. We have to take the 7 this turn. And then next turn we block the 15 power guy. Awkward. A follow-up Atraxa. What does this do? If it finds them another Emrakul, then we're dead. There's not an Emrakul there. The Grizzlebrand is pretty good though. You can probably find them an Emrakul. This does also give them 14 power that comes through this turn, so we are just dead to this one. And they're not going to let us have an additional card. Yeah, I think that's the game there. GG's opponent. It was a pretty tight race there, to be honest. A lot closer than I was expecting. We definitely have some good permanents to mess with our opponent there. But the triple Veil of Summer kind of jammed us up in one of these games. And the Carpet of Flowers was the real thing that changed these games. I think our deck is quite cold to Carpet of Flowers. Whereas if we were running something like Prismatic Ending, we'd be able to deal with the Carpet of Flowers a lot more effectively. Yeah. Alright, we're 1-1. No shame losing Arcan, especially when we're on a bit of a brew like this. Let's go to round 3. Alright, we're on the play. We can stifle our opponent. So that's pretty cool. We'll keep this, just play the Underground Sea. If our opponent tries to Wasteland us, we can stifle that. Pretty nice. We don't need to ponder just yet. We don't really know what we're looking for against this matchup yet either. Underground Sea. Probably some kind of combo-y type shenanigans. Well, there's been a bit of an uptick in the ruggy decks. Alright. So we are going to protect ourselves with a Stifle, I think, here. We'll let this evoke trigger go. And we'll Stifle this one. So we might be getting scammed. Might just be bringing this guy back. Force of Will, not a bad one to find here. I think we're incentivized to play out this Baleful Strix. Do you want a Tundra? Or do we want a black source? We've got a lot of blue in our hands, so I think I'm going to take the Tundra here. So that way we can't be wastelanded off of Ponder. Just get our little guy down. Casting an Entomb. Alright. We will say no to this Entomb and we'll pitch. I think I'm going to pitch the Void Rend here. The Hullbreacher is going to shut off what Grizzlebrand can do quite nicely. We can find the land. Alright, we have a Wasteland. So our opponent is on Reanimator. They might be on just standard black Reanimator, yeah. And this is just the Underground Sea from for their sideboard plan. Another Entomb, you say? That's a little bit on the awkward side, isn't it? So our opponent has told us that the thing that they're trying to reanimate costs 2 mana. Because if it was just reanimate, then they wouldn't have done it here. So what is more important to us, black or white mana? White mana can cast our little guy. We're basically going to hold this up for Stifle, whichever one we do. So I think we're just going to ponder this way. I don't want to have to draw through all of these. I'm going to get any order. Okay. So we're going to take out the Badlands because that's the far better land in the main deck because it casts the Faith is Looting, whereas the Underground Sea doesn't cast anything in the main deck outside of really weird situations when they have a load of mana. Right, so there's that ritual we're looking at here. There's an Animate Dead. It is an Animate Dead. So this does have a trigger that I can Stifle if I remember rightly. Alright. Stifle did okay there. It would be rude not to Sinkhole our opponent, wouldn't it? Say no to enemy lands. Bash with Baleful Strix. It's a very slow clock, but we can speed it up with a Hullbreacher next turn. I think I would rather just get the Hullbreacher down now and have like a bigger threat than potentially get to draw 1 card off of the Sentinel this turn. Right, so they found a mana source. They're not casting anything with it. Let's cast the Hullbreacher. This makes Grizzlebrand pretty bad. Sure. Black and blue. Let's draw a card with the Hullbreacher. Let's deploy this Sentinel. Let's go attacks. Do we hold this land for Brainstorm? I think we do. So if our opponent bricks for another couple of turns, I think we're fine. Right, so I have 2 mana, so they might be able to cast something like an Exhume. Should be pretty good. We do get to draw 1 card if they do that. But they also can't draw cards with the Grizzlebrand. Animate Dead. So we get a card here. Alright, they're scooping up. Interesting. I guess they're pretty scared of what the Hullbreacher can do against their Grizzlebrand, and we have it checked with the 2 Baleful Strixes. Alright. Got a game 1 versus Reanimator. Pretty happy about that. We would like Force of Negation. We would like Containment Priests. We would like Faerie Macabres. Now, is our opponent trying to do the Dauthi Voidwalker plan? That's certainly a possibility. So we need to keep that in mind when we're sideboarding here. They're not going to be targeting our permanents, so Rayne can come out. Hullbreacher is good. Opposition Agent stops them doing a bunch of things. Queza. Is this going to be good enough? It is a blue card. I think Starscream probably has to go. And the Jace isn't so good. Is this a game where we're realistically going to be able to leverage RHYSTIC Study that much? Maybe? Because our opponent's not going to have a lot of mana if we can survive the first wave. How useful are these Void Rends going to be? I think we probably do want them just in case they are on the Dauthi Voidwalker plan. So we just want to get beaten down by that. So if we're looking for 3 more cuts, I think maybe we trim one of the RHYSTIC Studies, because that's kind of like a slower thing. I guess the Queza can go because Sheoldred is the better creature. And maybe it's one of the Sinkholes. Like, the Sinkholes aren't great, but you can sometimes just strand your opponent's hand with a bunch of stuff. That's kind of what we're aiming for with that. Sure, we'll try it like this. So we could have Swords to Plowshares instead of the Void Rend. But Void Rend can hit other permanents. Like, well, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's hitting the Animate Dead, but it can hit other random stuff they might want in the okay, so what does our hand do here? This is a no-lander. But we have Force of Will and double Faerie Macabre. I think this is a no-lander that's keepable. If we find a single blue source, we get to cast our Ponder. But we have 3 pieces of interaction that we can deploy. And if we draw a land, we might even be able to deploy the other one. Do we want to Force of Will this? I think we do. And we'll pitch this Stifle rather than the Ponder, because we're going to need this to dig ourselves out of the hole. Right, what's happening here? We're going to see Dark Ritual. We're just going to see a classic Reanimate. 3 cards left in our opponent's hand. We'd quite like to find a land here. Did not find a land. Alright. Awkward. But again, we have lots of interaction against a turn 1-ish combo deck, so... Entomb. You can have your Entomb. What they're looking for here. Archon of Cruelty. Sure. Baleful Strix. Nope, that doesn't do it either. Okay. Bloodstained Mire. Cracking their Bloodstained Mire. We might just wait for a piece of discard here. Alright, we didn't get there with that. I think we'll get rid of the Sinkhole. We're certainly not the one that's trying to mess with our opponent's lands there. I would still keep this opening hand. And I think we're actually in a reasonable spot. A single land just completely unlocks our hand. That's not a single land, is it? We'll discard this Void Rend. 3 mana is a long way off. Like, they show and tell us, we lose, and that's fair enough. An Unmask. Targeting us. Read it and weep, opponent. We have 3 Faerie Macabre in our hand. You're not going through the graveyard to win this game. Well, they pitch. The Grizzlebrand. So 2 Grizzlebrands in exile. They took the Containment Priest. So that means they're building towards a show and tell hand, I would imagine. Oh, Sinkhole. At least we don't have to discard this turn. Alright, we're 12 cards into our deck and we haven't found the land that unlocks our entire hand. I bet the first land we find won't cast a Ponder. If I get an Underground Sea here and just cast Show and Tell, then we're in trouble. Yeah, sure. Goodbye Sinkhole, I guess. This is a bit of a farce. Surely it's time. Alright. A Containment Priest is not the one, is it? What are we going to get rid of here? Probably the Stifle. At least if we show and tell, we can put in a Baleful Strix and that can block. What a silly game. We're a quarter of the way through our deck and we found a land. But it's a white land. But any other land does give us Containment Priest, which takes off their show and tell line. A Dark Ritual. Okay. What are we getting here? A Grief. Might just be a hard cast Grief. Green. Oh, we're getting a hard cast Atraxa. That's pretty good. This is a very silly game. Kind of wish we had the plows in instead of the Void Rends now. The Void Rends can kill things like Lotus Petals for the Mana Denial plan, but I don't think that was good enough, to be honest. Let's have a look. There's not a show and tell in there, which is interesting. Maybe they didn't go onto the show and tell plan. So kept Lotus Petal, Unmask as a sorcery, Grizzlebrand, Dark Ritual, and Scrubland. Animate Dead. Sure, it's quite a lot of cards. So there's the Lotus Petal, sure. So they can reanimate their Archon of Cruelty this turn. I'm not sure what gets us out of that situation. Like, they can... Right, so the reanimate and the unmask is gone. So we do have like the Faerie Macabre, so we can get rid of those. But they can... I guess they might not have another reanimation spell in hand. Right, took our Baleful Strix. Not that we're anywhere near casting that. Come on, deck. Be good to me. An Underground Sea. I think I'm going to cast a Ponder. Like, we could play a Containment Priest, but they already have a creature in play. So we have this Void Rend that we want. But I think we have to put the Esper Sentinel down, then the Void Rend, and the Force of Will. Take 7. Next turn we take another 7. But then our Ponder can hopefully answer this. Although they can play the Grizzlebrand in a minute. I think we do have to shuffle, actually. Alright, that's not the one, is it? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, they can cast a Grizzlebrand this turn. But at least Esper Sentinel will draw us some cards. But they're going to draw a whole bunch from the Grizzlebrand. Unmask. Sure. They're going to pay 1 here? They are. No bonus cards for us. We're losing the Ponder. Makes sense. There's a Dark Ritual. There's another Dark Ritual. 5, 6, 7, 8. Here comes a Grizzlebrand. Yep. Pretty good. So we haven't seen any Doughty Voidwalker sideboard plan here, which is something to note. Alright. Sure, you can keep Thought Seizing. It doesn't really matter here. They're going to take the Containment Priest. Yeah. So they bash us for 7 this turn. Alright, you can grief us as well. So we lose 7 life here. We can't find a removal spell here. We could play a Faerie Macabre to chump block. If we find land and then the turn after we play the Void Rend. It's not a great plan. But it's the only one we've got. Alright, they've gone to 7. Sorry, they've gone to 8 by paying 7. Gonna be tough. If we'd have drawn a land earlier, like if we had to get through a quarter of our deck to find our first land. Statistically speaking, that's not great. Alright. So we will get rid of this Archon of Cruelty. And one of the grief. So we can't play the Faerie Macabre to block with. Not great. Yeah, I think we made a mistake as having the Void Rends instead of the plows as well. Can rectify that in game 3. We'll concede. Okay. Game 3. I think we're going to swap these plows in for these Void Rends. And then probably call it a day after that. I do still like the Sinkhole plan as an option. Is a Sinkhole better than a RHYSTIC Study if we want to just strand our opponent's resources? Maybe. Let's go for this. Especially on the play, it feels a lot better. Pretty light on threats, though. Is there anything we can do about that? Don't really want Queza. I don't really want Starscream either. Jace is pretty handy if we can drop it. Maybe Jace is better than RHYSTIC Study. This is guaranteed cards. But I guess RHYSTIC Study might be guaranteed cards in this particular matchup, the way we're trying to play it. Alright, we're just going to try and get them with our little guys. Disrupt them for long enough. Let's have a good hand. That's not too bad. We can keep this. We can brainstorm some stuff away. We've got Opposition Agent potentially, but unlikely to be where we want to be there. So we'll play this Tundra and hope our opponent can't do it all on turn 1. There's a Badlands. What are we going to see over there? Faith is looting. Alright, this is good. This plays into our Faerie Macabre. think our curve of Containment Priest into Opposition Agent might be good. Now they could have a Grief to follow this up. Nothing. Interesting. I'll play this Scrubland and pass a turn. I don't think our opponent's going to be on the Megs of the Moon plan here. But we can play our Opposition Agent around and swallow it up if needs be. Alright, Polluted Delta's being cracked. What are we going to see here? Animate Dead. I will cast our Containment Priest here. Oh, they're just scooping into the Containment Priest. Sure. Alright, we got a match win there against Reanimator. I think our deck's certainly got some decent tools for it. So, yeah, we are 2-1 going into round 4. Iron Ponder. Seems like a keep to me. A Plains. A Mother of Runes. Is this 60 card Death and Taxes, maybe? In which case, we're definitely looking more towards the Island Ponder to dodge Wastelands here. Right, we're going to make some land drops here. That seems fine. We can just go up into Jace and hope that's good. Usually is pretty good. So I think we'll go Hullbreacher, Underground Sea, Brainstorm, another Plains, into an Aethersworn Canonist. So this feels like maybe Mono White Painter. I think we let the Canonist fly. Means we're probably not getting Wastelanded this game. Sorry, we might be getting Wastelanded. We're not going to get Rishdan ported. Okay. Let's see how this turn plays out. Ingenious Smith. Do I care about Ingenious Smith? This is kind of a 2-for-1, isn't it? I guess we'll say no to this one. There's Wasteland. We're going to lose our Underground Sea. Sure. This is why we kept those lands. Because our opponent was showing us Wasteland colours, right? I think the Underground Sea is better to get Wasteland than Scrubland if it comes to it. So this Hullbreacher is not really going to do a lot in this matchup. Take our 2 points of damage. So this is looking more like the Eddie the Intern build of the deck, rather than the one that I tend to play. Baleful Strix. A very potent card, but I think we're supposed to play out the Scrubland first. And so we can hold up Underground Sea. So black, blue. Let's get a Baleful Strix. Stifle. Alright. Can definitely do some interesting things with the Stifle. A portable hole. This is one of the interesting things we can do. I think we will stifle this. Because this gives us a creature that can stop their attacks or force them to activate their Mother of Runes to push damage. Right, another Mother of Runes, that's fine. Right, I guess we're not actually blocking that. Rayne Academy Chancellor. Is that a thing we realistically want to play here? I don't think it is. We want to save this for as a saga. I think we attacking here for 1. No, I think we'll pass and hold up this Hullbreacher. Another basic Plains. So we're just going to take the 2 here. Bit awkward. But we can flash in our little friend. A RHYSTIC Study. Is that realistically going to do very much here? Or should we play the Rayne Academy Chancellor? They've got so much mana. I don't think mana's the gate for them right now. So we'll do this. This means Wastelands will at least draw us a card. So if we attack with the Hullbreacher, they can double block and then activate. And that doesn't strike me as a great use of our time. So I think we're probably looking at Baleful Strixing here to block. It's a bit ugly. We don't really have any sweepers here, so we're going to have to find something like a Sheoldred and Palalito. Alright, I guess we're not going to find a Sheoldred. Although if they Karakas our Rayne, we do draw a card. We're getting attacked by this. So we just have to take the 2 damage here. It's a bit ugly, but it's where we are. Sinkhole. Are we sinkholing or are we playing this RHYSTIC Study? I think we just want the RHYSTIC Study to get some potential card advantage down the line, but we're going to struggle. Right, we could have kept that as a thing to pitch to Force instead of Jace and try and leverage the Jace, but we have to find a blue source to even cast the Jace. Yikes. We need some creatures of different colours, I think. That would help. Right, so we get to draw a card. Right, we found a land. An Esper Sentinel. Are you going to pay? This is a turn we start defending ourselves. I think so, sadly. Sure. Gets protection. I think we just need to save the life there. Because later on they can just use it to push damage. A Void Rend. That's interesting, but I don't think that's where we want to be. Alright, so we want a blue source here. Is it another Tundra? I guess so. Blue, 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 colourless. Yep, you can have a card. We get a treasure. Pretty good. Target player mills 2 cards. We'll mill them and draw 2 cards. And draw a card, sorry. Another Force of Will. Okay, so we're just losing to the stuff on board now. This turn we can attack if we want to, or we can hold this back for the Esper Sentinel to block with. I guess we're not winning this game through combat damage necessarily. It's going to be a case of trying to change the way the board is lined up. Pithing Needle. This is going to name Jace, isn't it? We can Void Rend this, or we can play this Force of Will to get a treasure right now. Is that worth doing? We'll let them name Jace, and then we can blow it up with a Void Rend if needs be. Retrofit's Foundry. I think this is worth counterspelling though. We will not pay here because we just get a treasure off of the Hullbreacher. Problem is we're just dying to their medium men, so we need to find a way of keeping ourselves alive here. It's getting a bit tough out there for us. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. This is one of the cards that is going to do the work that we want here. We can't do the Jace this turn, but I think that's okay. Black, black, 1, 2. We have a Force of Will. They do have a Karakas is the only problem. Maybe we're not supposed to have played that there. That's foolish. What am I doing? Supposed to sinkhole this first. Yeah, that was just a horrible play. What am I doing? We sinkhole the Karakas. We get the treasure, and then we deploy the Sheoldred. Yeah, that's going to cost us the game. Yikes. What an error. Yep, we have to take 2 here. So what we were supposed to do here was sinkhole this for black, black. Say no to this. I had it in the back of my mind that we had the Karakas covered already. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't need to do anything about that. Alright, so we get rid of the Karakas. And now if we play the Sheoldred, they can just get 2 cards immediately, can't they? That's the problem. Yeah, that misplay is going to cost us there. Because we need to block this Pithing Needle to get our Jace online. Play 1, 2, 3, 4. That only leaves us with 1 mana, so we won't be able to Void Rend. And we need to hold the Void Rend up. Yeah, we're in a bit of a bind here. If they activate both of their Mother of Runes to give both of their guys protection, then we can kill one with a Void Rend. But if they don't do that, then we can hit the Needle at end of turn, untap, play Sheoldred, activate Jace, gain some life. And then we're not necessarily doing okay, but we're alive at least. Alright, attacking with both of these guys. This means that we can still cast our Force of Will. Sure, they're giving this pro blue. Get rid of the Pithing Needle right now. Our opponent doesn't get to draw a card. And we get a treasure out of it. I think so. So this is white, blue. Should we just get the treasure back off that? This will put us to 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we can draw another land, we can play both of these. A Painter's Servant. How interested in Painter's Servant am I here? Okay. We can't counterspell it anyway because we already cast our 1 spell for the turn. Alright, so we can't play both of these actually, can we? Alright. Baleful Strix. This is a thing we can do though. That's pretty good for us. So we can go black, black, 1, 2. Play Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Then mill them and draw a card, which will trigger our Sheoldred. Then we can cast a Baleful Strix for blue, black. This gives us an additional card, which gives us an additional 2 life. Now we could have done this many turns earlier because we made a mistake. And now we're kind of getting back into this one. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. We have a Force of Will available to us. And Urza's Saga, we have that covered by a Sinkhole. That's fine. We're getting some life here. I think we might have managed to just about get there here. And black. And I will pay for this. Or do we make them take some life here? This is our win condition. No, I think we paid to prevent this. We just want to win on the turns we have right now. Smell them a bit more. RHYSTIC Study. Sure. So we could play Starscream I didn't really want to give them the Monarch, so I think we're just going to play this one out. Because it's an artifact, that's why we could play this one, but we're not going to. Pass 10. What's the ultimate on this one? Draw 7 cards. If you have a library, no cards in it, you win the game. Sure, we'll leave our guys back on blocks. An Ether Vial. That's fine. So our life total is now stable. I think we will... So we can use this to get a Ponder and get rid of one of the cards, but if we cast a Ponder, that's all we get. So I think we're going to go blue, white, black, colourless. Let's play Queza. We're doing it. We're doing the thing. Let's mill them out. We could deploy this Esper Sentinel. I like that actually because it's a white creature. And then we'll pass. We're attacking now. We just want to keep multiple creatures back. I guess that everything is blue though, so that's something to worry about. Maybe we should be jamming a bit more. Alright, they scooped it up. Excellent. We got there. Okay, so this painter deck. I'm pretty familiar with it. So we want some Null Rods, we want some Energy Fluxes, we want these sorts of things. Void Rend, also pretty good. Opposition Agent is nice here. Hullbreacher does nothing. Starscream, I'm sorry, I don't think I want to play you. The Legends aren't very good versus what they're doing, but we do need to win the game. Sinkholes as answers for as a Saga are good. That's the best card in the deck, is why the deck works. It's incredible cards, so I want to stop that. RHYSTIC Study. Doesn't feel like RHYSTIC Study is going to draw us that many cards. Stifle definitely has some use here. Things like Wasteland, things like Saga. Like these guys. Rayne is actually okay here. Rayne's probably better than RHYSTIC Study, weirdly. Are we supposed to board out these? I don't think we can board out those. Okay. Or if we board out our counter magic, because they're an Ether Vial deck anyway, we just board in a bunch of removal. Seems fine. Energy Flux, Baleful Strix, not a great combo, but it hurts them way more than it hurts us. So we're just going to be a mid-range deck with a bunch of removal. Island Ponder, I'll take it. The Sinkhole's going to be a little tricky to get some joy with. Esper Sentinel, okay. That doesn't really make me want to cast this Ponder on turn 1 anymore. Very rude. We'll play out a fetch land and cast Ponder next turn, paying for the Esper Sentinel tax if we want to. Or we can just jam this Baleful Strix. A Grindstone. Yeah, that's definitely a card that can do some stuff against us in the near future. We'll crack this for... I guess we want a Swamp here, don't we? And we'll just deploy this Baleful Strix. Get ourselves a card deeper. Not really the time for Queza, but... Let's see what they have going on for them. A Wasteland. Sure. We fetched around that nicely. Ingenious Smith. Sure. What is it going to reveal for them? Fail to find. Sure. They're going to portable hole away our Baleful Strix, which also pumps their Ingenious Smith. That's okay. Null Rod, you say? After they've just used their portable hole. Don't mind if I do. Alright. So we got the Null Rod. That shuts off their Ancient Den. We just need to find some of our 8 removal spells. Yep, this is one they can play. Sure, we're going to take a bit of damage here, but Source of Plowshares is very live for us. A Stifle. I think we're just going to play the Queza, actually. We can play this around the Esper Sentinel. It makes all of our Ponders a lot better. It blocks their creatures really effectively. We're going to see a plow here? No, okay. I guess I couldn't plow actually because the Ancient End doesn't tap for mana. Alright, a Karakas. Annoying, but there we are. Another Grindstone. This pumps Ingenious Smith. If we can remove this Ingenious Smith, then we've got loads of time. There is certainly an option for just letting them draw cards soon. Polluted Delta. I think we will cast a Ponder. Are we going to pay 2? We're looking for Swords to Plowshares here. I think we just have to let them have the cards in case we need to do multiple things. The idea is we're shutting down their cards with the Null Rod. Void Rend is good. Wasteland is also going to be good. Rayne is less good. Put that one back. Put that one back. And this one. Should for library, no. So we can remove the portable hull and then jump them with our Baleful Strix. That's going to be a pretty strong play, I think. But if we do that, we have to shuffle away our Wasteland. If we don't want them to get cards, or we could just let them take the cards and not care. Certainly some options here. Now, if we get the chance, I suppose we probably should play around Source to Plowshares in terms of killing their Ingenious Smith. There's an Esper Sentinel. I'll pump their Ingenious Smith. So we could take the really greedy line of getting our Baleful Strix back and blocking the Ingenious Smith with it. But if they have a Source to Plowshares, we lose the game. How badly do I want this Wasteland on top of our library? Is it worth giving our opponent another card so we can get a Wasteland and shut off the Karakas and play the Queza? I think it is. Say no. Have some cards, opponent. This doesn't feel great for us. But the idea is that we're shutting off all our opponent's cards so it doesn't matter. Alright, so we take 2 here. We get the Wasteland. Play the Queza. What are we looking at here? Ingenious Smith. Another one. Okay. Or is this one going to dig them up? They've got a lot of cards over there. A portable hull. Okay, so that's going to get rid of our Null Rod here. Which is pretty big news. Right, they're just playing a Mother of Runes. That's good too. Is the top of our deck good enough to beat what's in play right now? So if we Wasteland this, play the Queza, cast a Ponder, they make this into a 2-2, send it through. I think we have to play the Queza. I don't like it, but get rid of the Karakas. Yeah, the time we cast the Queza, this game was real bad for us, truth be told. Let's get the Queza. Yeah, we have to go to 3 here. We'll get an Underground Sea, perhaps this Sinkhole. Cast this Ponder. Yes, my opponent's going to get a whole bunch of cards and I can't really do anything about this. I think we've lost this one. In turn we cast the Queza, and then they had the Karakas is probably what got us here. I like the Baleful Strix. Don't like the other cards very much. I think this is any order and shuffle. So I think our opponent has this if they just play their artifact out. Right? They play their artifact, this becomes a 2-2. They give it protection. Then they swing with everything. I block one of these. I take 2, 3, 4. That's exactly lethal. I think we just concede this game and go to the next one when we've got more time. Alright. I'm happy with how it's sideboarded there. I don't think I want to change anything. Just run it back. Like the Hullbreacher weirdly would have been okay in that situation. But the multiple Esper Sentinels isn't really what this game normally is about. So, I think we need more mana here. It's mulligan. Okay, I can live with this. Keep this. Kind of want a whole bunch of lands, given the way these matchups tend to go. We'll get rid of this, I think. We want to save our Wasteland for as a Saga rather than anything else. We'll deploy the Marsh Flats. This can get us a black source. This can get us a blue source. Depending on if we're looking at sinkholing or not. A Saga. Okay. And an Aethervar. Yeah, that's pretty good. We will just Wasteland this Saga. Oh, even got a play to follow up with. That's pretty nice. How far do we want to go into this rabbit hole? We kind of need something that can cast a Baleful Strix, so I think we're going to get the Scrubland and cast a Sentinel here. Now we can get Wastelanded here, and that won't be very nice. Right, not a Wasteland. That's fine. So we can deploy the Baleful Strix next turn. Esper Sentinel catches a decent amount of things in our opponent's deck. It's not as good as like a blue deck. Alright, so they're going to probably just play this box open and pay. This is a singleton in their deck so that they can get it off of Urza Saga. Alright, we've got the next Urza Saga covered. Right, and a Wasteland as well. So let us draw a card. Alright, so they're playing all sorts of things there. Alright, Baleful Strix. Either while activating, are they going to put anything in, or are they just showing us? Alright, so they are putting something in. That's a pretty good thing to put in, unfortunately. So they have 3 mana potentially this turn. So if they have the Painted Servant, they can kill us this turn with Mother of Runes backup. Should be pretty good. Why don't I ever get a play against decks like this when I'm playing the white painted deck? Alright. A nice slow grindy deck is where you want to be when you're playing Painter. The white Painter. What do we want to do here? We've got a Stifle that can keep us alive. I think we're casting a Ponder here. This is going to be difficult. I think we just go any order here and shuffle. We're looking for Void Rends and things. Oh, we could Shadow Realm our opponent a little bit here. Don't mind doing that. Let's go and get a black source. Probably an Underground Sea. Let's do the thing we came here to do and get rid of our opponent's resources. Alright, sorry, I had to quickly dash off to do something there. And our clock is taking a bit of a beating because of it. But real life things sometimes happen. Alright, what's coming in from this? I don't know. An Oswald Fiddlebender. That's pretty good. But we're just trying to keep them off of mana here. If they put in a Painter, they can use Oswald to get a Crucible. And that kind of shuts down all of our Wastelanding plan that we had going. Right, so they're cracking that for a Painter. No, a Canonist. Okay, that's fine. Don't think they're going to attack with the Mother of Runes there. A Brainstorm. I think we want to lead out on this. So this is going to be black off of this. And blue off of this. This way we can hold up Source of Plowshares if we find it, or Stifle. And to play this a little bit quicker. I don't want to just play the Wasteland out, but I think it probably should. Then pass the turn. Right, we need to be a little bit more on it with our clock. Sure. You can put something in with your Ether Vial. Another Canonist. 5 minutes is enough time to win this game. If I hadn't have had to dash off and lose 2 minutes, I'd be a little bit more comfortable with it, but we'll see. Right, so turning this into a Crucible of Worlds, so we're going to say no to this. Finally got a bit of removal on one of their creatures, I guess. They're probably... I don't think they attack with the Canonist here. There's a Wasteland. We're going to Wasteland our Wasteland. Wasteland our Tundra, sure. I don't think they're going to attack with their Canonist here. A Brainstorm. I think we will cast this Brainstorm. Right, Sinkhole, Opposition Agent. I don't think we need the Rayne here. And we'll put the Opposition Agent on top. Attacks. One little guy here. Cast an Artifact. Pass the turn. Sure, keep putting in your Ether Vials activations. Painted Servant. We're just trying to keep our opponent off of 3 mana to activate this. These decks usually don't have an Ancient Tomb, although I know one player who does play a single Ancient Tomb in their list, which could certainly get us here. Right, so this is going to get the Crucible. Yep, there it is. Sure. So now we're going to get Strip Mind out of the game, I think. Yep. This Mother of Runes is the thing that's winning the game for them at the moment. Opposition Agent. This is a spell we can't cast now. We can't cast our Brainstorm either. Yeah, I think our opponent's got us here. We don't get to use our spell. There's a problem. They've got loads of time here. So we're going to lose all of our permanents. We're going to lose all of our land. And then how do we come back? We can't kill the Mother of Runes. Yeah, I think we win this one. We lose this one. Yeah, so this is the sort of deck that the mono white painted deck just chews up, because it has so much like grind ability that it just gets to go through and slowly strip away whatever's going on the control side. Now, to be fair, we had some big haymakers we could have drawn to, like the Energy Flux was just game over if we drew it in those turns, but we just couldn't get there. So it's a bit unfortunate. Like, we definitely had some options. If it wasn't for the Mother of Runes, like, this game would have been unlosable for us, I would say. But the Mother of Runes just shutting down our interaction, like Source of Plowshares, is so big. Alright, we are 2-2 going into the final round. We're on the play for the final round. We have a pretty strong mana denial hand. Like, is Wasteland Sinkhole going to be good in a matchup? That is certainly a question. Do I have an answer to that question? I guess we came here to try this out, right? So let's give it a whirl. We don't have a Stifle, which would be the ideal here, but we'll play out this Polluted Delta. We can play out a Sinkhole on a basic or a Wasteland on a non-basic, depending on what they lead out with. Prismatic Vista. Okay, so we're probably looking at non-basic. They haven't given us a target at all here, so not ideal. I think we'll play out Flooded Strand here. This is going to be like a controlling matchup, but our opponent's going to be more set up to be control than we are. So it's going to be a little tough, perhaps. We'll see, though. Okay. Do we want to just run this RHYSTIC study out there? We don't really do anything else, do we? Can get ourselves a basic island on this one. So we've got a white source in hand already. We'll get basic swamp on this one. So we've got a black ready for when we need it. And we'll play out EDH staple, RHYSTIC Study. I can't imagine our opponent's happy to see this, so they're probably going to counterspell it. A Brainstorm, okay. They might just be brainstorming now because it's cost efficient to do so, or they might actually be looking for an answer to it. It will tax our opponent, but because we're not a tempo deck, it's not actually going to make a huge difference. We're not going to necessarily make use of it, of the tempo we gain if they pay all the time. But they don't necessarily know that, so they might be more incentivized to counterspell it now. Alright, they thought about it. They clearly have a Force of Will in hand because they paid 1 life and then it went back again. But they let us stick it. Interesting. Now we need to make advantage of that situation we found ourselves in with the RHYSTIC Study in play. Okay. Don't hate this situation. Another sinkhole, you say? Like, we came to do this, right? Let's hit this volcanic island. They're going to pay for our RHYSTIC Study? They are. Sure. Let's sinkhole them. Right, they're cracking. We've got Force of Will here. Sure. So our sinkhole became a Hymn to Turak. Not quite what we wanted, but we're doing alright. We can sinkhole Wasteland this turn if they give us the opportunity to do that to them. Ooh, they missed a land, did they? Well, guess what, opponent? We got another one. Another Force of Will. Pitching Dress Down. I assume they're going to pay here. Why wouldn't they? Let's play out this snow-covered island. That might have been a mistake playing out a snow-covered island. Maybe we're supposed to play the Tundra out. Because then we can Wasteland plus Queza next turn. We haven't been punished for that. White, blue, black. Let's play Queza. A win condition. We also have the Stifle ready for their fetch land, which they're not going to be very happy about if that occurs. There it is. Say no to Flooded Strand. Because this would definitely get them a basic, I think. Minor misstep, sure. And they're going to pay. So this turn is probably going to be spent getting a basic plains and then Swords to Plowsharesing our Queza. That's why I imagine this turn is going to be. No? Well, we have a win condition going, so we're going to save these in hand for Brainstorms. So we've got 3 turn clock in play. We've certainly expended our opponent's resources on stuff that probably didn't really matter that much in the long run. Like delaying our opponent, the fact that we actually found a creature was fine. Swords to Plowshares, sure. So, goodbye, Queza. Now what? Now we cast a Ponder. Esper Sentinel. Let's keep taxing them, I guess. So, would we rather have a Force of Will or a Rayne on top of our library? We kind of have to go through both of these, which is a bit grim. Maybe we're supposed to any order and shuffle. Esper Sentinel should draw us so many cards, though. Alright, I've convinced myself into it. Well, again, we'll keep our cards in hand for the purposes of Brainstorm. If they play a land that we can hit with a Wasteland, we can think about doing that. But now we have to pay 2 for every spell, otherwise we get to draw a card. Well, not every spell, but the first spell of a turn. So we've got Plowshares. They might just spend their entire turn getting rid of our Esper Sentinel. Alright. Similar but different. Now we've got this Force of Will on top of our library, which isn't great. Alright, we'll pass the turn. We'll hold up Hardcast Force of Will. So if they have a Narset or a Jace or something. Right, are they going to pay for the RHYSTIC Study? Looks like they are. Another land? Oh, how unfair. Okay, over to us. I think I will play out our Rayne here. Using our basics in case they have back to basics in the main deck. This is not a particularly exciting thing, but they can't deal with it with Teferi without making us draw a card. I think we need to have something on board. Okay. So if they target either our Study or our Rayne, we get to draw a card. Right, over to us, is it? So our opponent could be representing Snapcaster Mage. I don't really want to get hit by a Snapcaster Mage there. This Sheoldred is very good, but I don't want to play out until I at least have the Force backup for it. So we're just going to pass through a turn. We're not going to attack into potential Snapcaster Mage here, because we don't want to trade our Rayne in combat when it's doing a lot of work by not being killed by combat damage. A Narset. Are they going to pay 1 for this? They are. This is worth counterspelling. Can we Force of Will? Our opponent drawn the third Force of Will? They have. And they have the mana to pay with a RHYSTIC Study too. Sure, not great. Pretty annoying, to be honest. Let's have a look what they find. So our plan is to... Okay, Force of Negation. So our plan is to attack the Narset, Wasteland the Tundra, play Sheoldred. Brainstorm, not doing anything underneath the Narset. Black. Black. So this gets in underneath the Force of Negation. If they've got their fourth Force of Will, then whatever, I guess. But, right, so we've got our opponent dead in 2 turns. We need to find an answer. We took them off their second white, so Supreme Verdict is going to be harder for them to use as an answer. We know they didn't have a land in hand last turn. So we've been tracking when they've been missing land drops. Alright, a Ponder. Are you going to pay for this? They are going to pay. So we're not going to get Swords to Plowshares this turn. Sorry, not Supreme Verdict this turn. They can't cast anything like Days Undoing because Sheoldred will kill them. If they target our Sheoldred, we get to draw a card at least. Right, the Ponder's hitting them for 2 damage. So they don't find an answer now, they die. They chose not to shuffle their library with a Ponder, which is an interesting one. Swords to Plowshares. I'm going to pay 1. I guess we don't get to draw any cards anyway because of the Narset, which is pretty annoying. So we draw one of those cards just so we get the 2 life. We skip our draw step effectively. Drawing second Brainstorm here is gross. Let's go to attacks. So they found the Swords to Plowshares. They cast it on our turn, which was smart of them. If we can clear this Narset, we can fix our hand with these Brainstorms. We need our Rayne to survive. Starscream. Interesting. I don't really want to give our opponent the Monarch. This card is an awkward one, isn't it? But we definitely need to clear the Narset. Do we think our opponent's got another removal spell here? Oh, jeez. Here comes Starscream. Not a great card in our deck, to be honest. But if someone sends me a donation deck with some weird stuff in it, you know I'm going to give it a whirl, right? So they even told me I could cut this if I wanted to, but I thought, no, we'll give it a go. The haste on it has been good. Go to attacks. We're looking at Dress Down. Okay. Bit sad for our poor little Starscream. No point using this ability because the Narset just takes away the haste. They got Kill Spell for our Rayne as well. Did they Brainstorm into double or Ponder into double Plow? Can we please attack the Narset? Hallelujah, it's gone. Okay. So let's go for a Brainstorm here. Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Yes, please. Get rid of these 2 lands that we do not want. We'll play this Marsh Flats. And we'll pass the turn. Cooling time from our opponent. They can't Supreme Verdict away our Starscream because it's a living metal thing, so it's only a creature on our turn. Okay, so now upkeep. I think it's time for our... I guess we do want another blue source here, actually, don't we? I guess we start out with a Brainstorm. Okay. I think we can put these 2 back. And we can go to attacks. What have you got for us this time, opponent? A Wandering Emperor. I'm going to pay 1 here. So we can Force of Will this, or we can Void Rend it. Now we know they've got a Force of Negation, so I think we're incentivized to Void Rend here. They can use this at instant speed, which is a little bit annoying. So let me just read the backside of Starscream. Whenever you draw a card, if you're the Monarch, opponent loses 2 life. So we're not the Monarch. So that's not great for us. So we could dome this Samurai and keep our Rayne alive and put our opponent to 2 life. I don't hate that as a strategy there. Let's say no to this. Because we'll make our Starscream on the lethal side. So how does this flip? Whenever we deal combat damage to them. Yeah, okay. So we deal combat damage to Starscream next turn. And then we maybe win? Sure, they're just creating a guy. We will fly over that guy. They do have a Force of Negation here. Giving your opponent the Monarch feels like a very bad thing to do. It's Marsh Flats we knew about. Good attacks. Swords to Plowshares. I guess we'll draw our card. We know it's a Karakas here, unfortunately. Let's say no to this. We know they've got Force of Negation, but if they cast this, we do get to draw a card with our RHYSTIC Study. Okay, they actually pitched a card for it so they could pay. Alright. This means our Jace is going to be freed up for next turn as well. We'll keep these in hand for Brainstorm purposes, I think. Alright. If we'd have played our fetch land first, we would have got to see one fresh card instead of this Karakas. What a weird long game this has been. Sure, you can pump your guy. It's not really what this game's about right now. Ugh. That's not good for us. So this shuts off our RHYSTIC Study, shuts off our Rayne, gives them a bunch of cards. There's a Wandering Emperor. Okay. Take our 3 damage. Our opponent's got a lot of our life total to get through. And we are ahead on clock. I don't really want to win the game that way, but if that's what needs to happen, I guess that's what needs to happen. Yeah, we're probably going to lose this game because we played Starscream. A Baleful Strix that doesn't actually draw us a card. Interesting. I think we're still casting it though. Play this guy. Let's not draw a card. That was fun, wasn't it? Okay, let's play this Jace guy. And just start milling our opponent out. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. We know one of them isn't blue. We've got through a Force of Negation and 3 Force of Wills now. Sure, they don't need to pay for this. That doesn't matter. So they're using the Brainstorm here so that we can mill out their cards. What's the text on this one? Then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. Do we want to mill 2 cards from our own library rather than give them the free Brainstorm shuffle? I don't think so. I think we're going to hit ourselves instead and they can keep the cards and just Brainstormed on top. Oh, God. You hate to see it. So play this Marsh Flats. I can get another card out of our deck. We're not going to attack into the Samurai token. We're just going to pass a turn. Right, so now they drew one of those cards off of the Brainstorm. It's absolutely typical that it would be a Void Rend on top of our library, wouldn't it? Yeah, so Narset and Carpet Flowers are both things that our deck is not a fan of. A Teferi Time Raveler. That's a pretty good one. Although if they bounce our thing, we do get to draw a card. Because Narset is just... You can't draw more than 1 card a turn, so this will be our card for turn. Another RHYSTIC Study. Not very helpful. Although if we can nail this Narset... They might even bounce our Baleful Strix here. They're bouncing our Rayne. That's interesting to me. So... If they crack this and they have another Plains in their deck, then they can deploy the Wandering Emperor and stop us from killing their Narset, which is very much what we would like to do here. They of course have a Prismatic Ending, but we know about the Wandering Emperor. We want to mill our opponent first, maybe just to stop them hitting a Plains, but I think they should just crack the Prismatic Vista there. I shouldn't hope our opponent's going to make that mistake. Coming at Jace. I think we will let Jace take the damage here. We want to try and clear the Narset because our deck just doesn't function versus Narset. Prismatic Ending on our Baleful Strix. That's real good. So we could have got a block in there if things panned out differently there. A Wasteland. That's not really doing it for us here, is it? Let's mill our opponent for a couple. Let's have a Rayne. I guess we'll play this RHYSTIC Study. And then we'll keep the other cards in case we can eventually shift this Narset. We might draw a Brainstorm. We've still got 2 Brainstorms left in the deck, I think. We don't have a lot of threats left. Both coming at Jace, so we'll just use this as a way of protecting ourselves from some damage. Crack this to improve our draws. We've still got a lot of these. We'll get a basic out. Why not? It's not really the one, is it? A Day's Undoing. Well, joke's on you. My hand's terrible. So this is a singleton in the Jeskai control decks. The other thing this does do, though, is it shuffles everything back in. So my Jace is back in my deck, so I do actually have a win condition. So in some ways, that helped us out. Now, our opponent does have to win this game and the next game. So we're going to take a little bit of a beating from these guys. Yeah, we lost this game because Starscream is in our deck. I think if we don't play the Starscream there, our opponent doesn't get the Monarch and they don't get to just draw out of this. I guess we'll play this and pass. Like, I think we had to play the Starscream because it was a threat and our opponent was so low. But the downside of Starscream is too much. We don't have any sort of sweepers in our deck, which is definitely going to cause us some issues here. Alright, they're drawing many cards a turn here. This Narset's really jamming us up. A Ponder, that's not going to do it. Now we could cast Ponder just to rearrange the top cards of our library, but I don't think that's worth doing. So was this 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So our opponent can kill us on the next turn if they make a token with the other Wandering Emperor. Which I think they should do. Oh no, actually no, they just got us dead here, right? Let's rearrange the top cards of our library. Any order. Play this. Give our opponent more stuff to think about. Burning our opponent's clock down, basically. Alright, that was game 1. Thanks, Starscream. Glad you could help. So, things that are going to be useful here. Void Rend and Force of Negation are both going to be useful. But that's about it. Starscream, I don't think I can play Starscream. I don't think it should even be in the deck, to be honest. But that's on me. Nobody else. We have one more slot to find if we want to accommodate both of these, which I think we do. I do like Rayne. I do like RHYSTIC Studies here. Do we want Containment Priest just as a way to pressure Narset as well? That honestly might be where we want to be here. Just as something that can pressure Narset. Are we looking at sinkholing our opponent? It started off okay, but it definitely fell by the wayside as things went on. Hullbreacher is good. They have Karakas. I don't think we want to get rid of our big payoffs though. I guess Containment Priest beats more than Baleful Strix, but Baleful Strix beats in the air. And it's a blue card. Should it be the sinkholes? I do like just the ability to say no to all the things our opponent's doing. No, I guess we shouldn't be playing these Containment Priests. Still means we're one card shy. Is it a one of Baleful Strix that goes? One of Stifle maybe? We're definitely going to have the time and the mana to deploy a lot of these things. Stifling their fetch hand is kind of the plan we're going for. We'll trim a Ponder. Let's just try to get Narset. We cannot keep his hand. We can keep this one. What are we looking at ditching here? Maybe the Rayne? Don't think we saw any Wastelands. Esper Sentinel on turn 1, pretty good. And Esper Sentinel on turn 2, also pretty good. And a land, how lucky is that? Jam another Sentinel. Go attacks. So if our opponent wants to cast spells, we're going to get to draw a card at least. Alright, they don't think they can win that one. They want to have the time to win the third game. That's why they're doing that concession there. It may look early, but it makes sense. Now, if we're just trying to grind the clock off our opponent, are we supposed to play these Swords to Plowshares just to make sure that they can't actually kill us? I don't think so. I think we just stick to our plan. I don't want to just be a complete griefer in that respect, says the guy running 4 sinkholes and stifles. Yeah, no, I think this is our plan. Like the sinkholes and the stifle kind of does a similar thing to the plows, in that it just slows the game down in a big way. And you got just under 7 minutes to try and win this game. Let's see if we can get a Esper Sentinel out nice and early. We have an Esper Sentinel on turn 1. We have an uncountable answer to Narset. I will keep this hand. We have a pretty nice curve. So we need to lead out on the Scrubland so that we can play the Sentinel. Our opponent is clearly representing mental misstep here, or minor misstep. Which means I don't think we're supposed to play out the Sentinel here. Don't want to waste our opponent's card on our Sentinel here. We're going to play out a snow-covered island so we can brainstorm if we need to. I'm just not going to play this guy out into a mental misstep, minor misstep. It's just not worth the time. A Baleful Strix, sure. We'll deploy these. This is something that can pressure a Planeswalker in the near future if we need to, but we also have Void Rend ready to go. Force of Will, not a bad one. Our opponent's getting their basics underneath them. Shark Typhoon just to draw a card. Sure. That suggests to me that they're a little bit shy of land. We're going to attacks. Put our RHYSTIC Study here. This will also put lots of triggers on the stack for our opponent to deal with. Sure, you can cast a Dress Down. This is obviously fishing for an answer for the study, I would say. Right, we're in with the study. It's a pretty horrible thing to make your opponent continuously resolve, and we've certainly eaten minutes off our opponent's clock because of it. So we've got Force of Will for something scary. We also have the 2 Void Rends for other scary things. Mountain. We're going to see Ruination here. That's not that bad for us. Prismatic Ending on our RHYSTIC Study. Are they going to pay here? They are. I'm going to hit this using our Brainstorm. So now we can deploy this around the mental misstep that we saw for ages. Our opponent was quite clearly telegraphing to us. Play another one of these. Means we can pressure Planeswalkers with combat damage as well. A Sinkhole, you say. So our opponent has to deal with all these RHYSTIC Study triggers whenever they cast a spell. Which is weirdly going to be the win condition in this game. A red Elemental Blast. Sure. Right, they're paying there. They're going to pay for our Esper Sentinel. So we've basically spent 2 turns trying to get rid of our RHYSTIC Study. Take this out. Crack this. We're going to get a black source here. There's Underground Sea. It's the only one we have options for. So we will take out this mountain so we can't get Pyroblasted anymore. Go attacks. Attack with our measly damage. A Volcanic Island. Sure. Pyroblast back on the menu. Supreme Verdict. Do you get to draw a card here though? Another RHYSTIC Study. Sure. More triggers for you. We're going to leave this Flooded Strand in hand for the purposes of Brainstorm. I don't think we're going to need to cast the Void Rend right now. If our opponent had 5 mana, then I would, because it means they could Narset Days Undoing. At least we'd be able to kill the Narset in response. So this turn, we need to leave up Void Rend just in case that happens. Our little friend. There's the misstep that we knew about the whole time, but now they have to at least resolve some triggers. We've got a Void Rend ready to go. So we can take our back to basics. We can take out Planeswalker. It's all good. We can't take out Teferi on their turn, but that's not too much of an issue. What is this? A Wandering Emperor. Okay. Let's say no to Wandering Emperor. They can make a 2/2. We can kill that if we need to. Yeah, so we can take 2 from the Samurai. Not the biggest punch of damage. I'm going to pay for this RHYSTIC Study. Let's try and Force of Will that. Draw for turn. So we have a Force of Negation if we would need that. I'd rather not use that this turn if possible. We're just trying to keep our opponent's win conditions away. Like 8 turns from this guy isn't really an issue. Teferi Time Raveler. Sure. Are they going to bounce our RHYSTIC Study? This is fine. Like if I had the mana open, I would cast it, but I'm not going to give up our Void Rend for this. Cracking their Scalding Tarn. Got Tundra. I guess I know they're free from Stifle because of the Teferi. Ponder, sure. You can resolve that. Take 2 from this guy. Force of Will. Kind of an awkward one here. We'll play out this RHYSTIC Study. I'll pass 10. I don't want to use this Void Rend on the Teferi when the time is so little for our opponent to actually win this game. Sure, you can cast some stuff with some nice timings. Good job, opponent. Take a bit of damage here. Over to us. Right, this is a reasonable card, I think, here. This can blunt our opponent's Samurai. If they plow it, that's another 2 turns off on the clock there. As long as I don't crap my fetch land. Source to Plowshares. Would you like to let us draw a card? No, you wouldn't. Sure. Are they going to make a Shark this turn? We haven't seen many Shark Typhoons. I have to imagine there's only 2 of them in their deck at this point. Days Undoing. It's a pretty good one. They can let us draw the card here, it doesn't matter. You don't need to pay there. We can't do anything because it's Teferi. Alright. So our opponents just wanted to wheel the win conditions into their deck, but they have wheeled us right into some stuff that's going to actually be useful here. Which is nice. And Narset Parter of Veils. They have a... The Days Undoing is in their bin, and they should only really have 1 of them, so... Alright, you want to resolve a Narset in your 1 minute 10 seconds? Be my guest. Alright, we're going to take 2 from this. That's fine. Okay, so there's a Force of Will in our opponent's hand. Get rid of this. Say no to Narset. We should have used the Scrubland, not the Underground Sea. Red Elemental Blast on our RHYSTIC Study. Okay. By Narset. I think we'll start off with a Ponder here. Actually, no, we'll Brainstorm. Oh, what am I doing? They have... Oh, no, we just killed the thing, right? Yeah, sorry. For a minute, I thought I'd done it in the wrong order. It's late at night. So what do we want to put back here? The Jace is going to be good. Force isn't going to be good whilst they have the Teferi, so we can bury the Force. And we'll bury the Tundra here. And I think we remove the ability for our opponent to Red Elemental Blast here. We can crack this for the Underground Sea. Cast this while the getting's good, and we can actually draw a card off of it. Force of Will, pitching Brainstorm. Sure. Nice at part of it. Pretty annoying. What are they going to find? A Red Elemental Blast. Sure. They can cast Sorcery's instant. They've got 21 seconds to deal us 5 more combat steps. That's going to be challenging, I would say. Let's cast this guy. Put some triggers on. How do you feel about that? And let's sculpt the top cards of our library. Brainstorm is a trigger on a stack. They've got 11 seconds to try and win this game. Probably not going to happen. 3 seconds. Alright. I think we successfully won this game. Okay, we'll put this on top. And then these. We'll not shuffle our library. See all these guys come in the near future. Not sure how they're going to win in 1 second. Alright. So we got the timeout win. Now, there was still quite a bit of that game to play. And in a real world, things would have been a little bit different. But I think we're actually in a pretty good spot there. But obviously the entire game was warped by the clock, so our opponent probably kept a hand that was unusual for what they would normally do with their deck if we had more time to play out. So it's not really a good showing of what the deck can do on their part. But we did get the first game. No, we got the second game, didn't we? Yeah, so the first game we just ground their clock down, but it was close and we lost because of Starscream. All right, let's talk about the deck. So first thing, you know what I'm going to say, right? This card is actively bad in Legacy, I would say. Giving your opponent the Monarch is not good, right? First time I ever read this, I thought it was when you deal combat damage, you become the Monarch straight away. The very first time I ever saw this. But it is not that. That's probably what it could be, and it would be okay. But, well, it'd be pretty good, I think, if that was the actual deal here. But, yeah, this isn't where you want to be. It's good against people who already have the Monarch, right? Because if they have the Monarch, you get to steal it. So it's good in those situations against like Palace Jailery type things that are already in play. But that's not really what our deck does. So this is an actively bad card. Now, the whole Sinkhole, Wasteland strategy wasn't really that good this league. And that's mainly because there's so many cantrips and things, and decks are so efficient these days that it's quite easy to play around it. Now, we did get a game versus the... Like, we did get games because of the Wastelandy strategy, right? And we definitely slowed down the first game of that Jeskai Control matchup. So I don't mind that. But I think some other problems we've noticed is the legendary nature of our win conditions. Now, we do have 4 Sinkhole, 4 Wasteland, so that's less of a problem due to Karakas. But we did lose a game by playing out one of these guys into a Karakas, and they had a Karakas, and we lost because of the Queza. They dropped the Karakas afterwards. We did also nearly punt a game by doing the Sheoldred thing, but we did win that game in the end, so that was okay. But this card just seems like a worse version of Sheoldred to me. It does pitch to Force of Will, but it's harder to cast on the mana, which brings me back to Sinkhole. The black for this was a problem. Like we definitely punted early on in, I think it was the very first game actually. I was clearly not with it at the time. But we fetched out a second black source so we could cast our Sinkhole. But that meant we couldn't cast our blue spells. Now that was on me, but I think it ended up fine anyway. But it was still a massive punt on my part. But I think Sinkhole is just really hard to fit in with the deck, right? Now I understand why it's here. It's so that your RHYSTIC Studies and Esper Sentinels do more. But we're trying to curve like white into black into like Esper mana. That's, you know, quite difficult. I think the Wastelands on their own are probably doing a good enough job. The RHYSTIC Study did feel pretty good. And if we were to tweak the deck a little bit, so we had ways of ramping out the Rhystic Study. For example, Ancient Tomb, we could do like turn 1, hold up Stifle or whatever, if we still want to play Stifle, or we could ponder. Turn 2, put a Rhystic Study into play. And that's going to completely warp the game. But we don't really have enough payoffs in this deck. I understand we are a very control-y deck, but we're very light on win conditions. And we don't have any like big hammer lock-in pieces that just completely put the game out of play for our opponent. So yeah, we can Sinkhole them into oblivion with like Sinkhole, Stifle, Wasteland. That can happen. But when it doesn't, we're kind of not doing a great deal. I think something like Narset might be quite useful for us if we're not going to go down the Ancient Tomb route and we're just going to have playing things on curve, because that'll be easier for the blue then. And I think Narset would be quite a powerful tool because it will find you bits and pieces that you need. So if you want to stay with the Sinkhole plan, I think Narset is going to be good at finding more sinkholes and more Rhystic Studies or whatever you're missing. Whereas if you want to go down the powering out Rhystic Study and Hullbreacher type stuff, then you probably want to be looking at being an Ancient Tomb deck. And then the question is, if you're cutting like this for another Sheoldred, how much white do we realistically need to play? So these are the white things in the main deck. And sideboard wise, we have some really strong white cards. So that's definitely something worth considering. The fact that Void Rend is uncounterable definitely came up, but it is quite an expensive piece of interaction by Legacy standards. And if we have to keep fetching all these non-basics to make sure we can deploy our things on curve, it means that we open ourselves up to Wasteland, which means it's harder for us to cast our like 3 mana interaction and 4 mana win conditions. So I think there's some serious push and pull there about what we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, I think there's 2 different directions you can go with this deck. You can either be ramping out 2 and a pip spell, so Rhystic Study, Hullbreacher, Opposition Agent, stuff like that. Or you can lean more into the Stifle, Sinkhole, and then play things like Narset to try and dig more of those up. If our mana base is going to be a bit dodgy anyway, maybe we should be an Ancient Tomb deck. Now, obviously, Wastelands and Ancient Tomb in the same deck is a bit of a no-no for the most part, because that's a lot of colourless mana. But you could be running more lands in order to compensate for that. And the whole idea of just trying to get your Rhystic Study out as soon as possible, because the earlier Rhystic Study hits play, the better, right? We could even be running Lotus Petals if you wanted, and just try and power out turn 1 Rhystic Studies and force your opponent into just slowing down the whole time. I think if you're in a situation where you went turn 1 Rhystic Study and then started messing with your opponent's mana, that would be a lot more powerful, because they either would have to play into your Rhystic Study and give you more resources, or kind of do nothing whilst you develop your mana base, and then you can play some of your big haymakers, which we probably need some more of. The Jace also is a 1 blue card, which has some ramifications in terms of trying to cast it, along with the Queza. So I think there is some real tension in this deck, but we managed a 3-2 with it, which I'm pretty happy with, to be honest. But yeah, I think as is, this deck isn't really fit for like a big tournament or anything like that at all. Like, you can play it for fun at like an F&M level thing, but if you want to try and grind some leagues with it, I think you need to find a slightly different approach. I think honestly, it might be better to ditch the white altogether and just play sort of like a black-blue, not quite hate bearsy, but kind of like 3 mana hate bears, like Hullbreacher, Opposition Agent, ram these into play with Rhystic Study. So chuck some Lotus Petals in there and some Ancient Tombs, just kind of get the whole thing together. So a bit like the mono black decks do, where they're trying to power out like Opposition Agent and stuff, but we're trying to power out Hullbreacher, Opposition Agent, Rhystic Study. These things are all pretty strong though, so I think that's definitely an option. The Esper Sentinel, obviously, against every other creature in the format, it can't really attack pretty much, which is definitely an issue. Whereas Baleful Strix doesn't suffer from that issue, and Hullbreacher can attack better a lot of the time. Obviously, it does cost more mana, but a 1 mana 1/1 can be awkward to try and win the game with. And we don't have a lot of ways of winning the game in here. I was pretty happy with the sideboard though. I think we had the right sort of tools there. I think the logic behind all the picks made sense to me. Alright, it's quite late. It's been quite a long one, this one, but I've enjoyed this one. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in this deck, and I'm really glad that I got the donation to do this one. So thank you for submitting this one. And if you are watching this and think, oh, I've got a cool deck that I'd like to see Cyrus play, why not message me via the Discord link below and get in touch and get a donation deck going. I'm pretty open to playing all sorts of things, and this is a deck that is a little bit different from the original list it was sent. I worked on it for like a week and a half of like tweaking little bits and stuff and trying to get the numbers a bit rounded on it. So I'm quite happy with how it turned out, to be honest, as a first draft from like somebody else's list. So yeah, all right. I'm rambling now because I'm tired. So thank you very much for watching. Check out the Patreon, like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill, right? Okay, thank you very much and goodbye.